Okay, welcome back to RCM Tech Talk. John Williamson and Francis Burton here. We're going to get into the details of verification of benefits and authorization issues. This is often an overlooked category of work. It has to do with folks at the front desk as well as case management behind the scenes doing things like authorization, after an inpatient admission, those kinds of things, or prior to delivery of services. This area is going to be really important for all the downstream work that happens. A lot of times you're going to find folks in the AR department complaining about things that happen in this department. So it's going to be a great opportunity to sit belly to belly with the folks doing the work, not just the managers of the people doing the work. It's really important to understand the exact challenges at a more nuanced level, often having to do with clicks and systems and integrations and things like that. Francis, what have you seen in this area? Why is it important for revenue cycle directors?
Well, you definitely want to know what kind of practices are in place for the front desk. Are they doing insurance verification at the time of the appointment? Are they doing it prior to the appointment? Are they using the tools that's provided through the systems like the clearinghouse? Are there little eligibility, electronic eligibility verifications in place? Are there manual verifications in place? What types of check-in processes are there? Those are the things that's important. And I'll let you kind of get into the initial side of that.
So when you walk in, you should really be prepared with reports. So we've already talked in the past about running sort of global reports, often focused on sort of volumes and AR, those kinds of things. But there are some specific things you can hone in on from your reporting that will give you insight into problems you might want to sort of dig in on when you're having conversations and sort of interviewing folks. So if you think about your denials as the starting point for your problem discovery, so that's usually, denials are the result of something upstream that happened oftentimes. So eligibility and benefit denial volume. So for example, you're going to see things like someone was eligible, but their plan doesn't cover your service. So they have you have sort of a custom benefit plan that maybe your type of service isn't covered on. So for some plans, you may need to go deeper than just saying, oh yeah, this person has active insurance. Sure, but what benefits are there? So that's going to require an extra step that you may not be used to. At the same time, you're going to see things like, where you hadn't collected any money, but the front desk person should have known that there was going to be patient responsibility because of a deductible or because of a copay. All of those things are sort of at the benefit level and sort of go beyond the basics of often what the integration is. You often have to look at something else to get in the detail level here. And then on the authorization side, so depending on the scenario of authorization, different folks have sort of, whether they're based on referrals or, they're doing sort of a retroactive authorization or a change of authorization. All the authorization denials are critical to uncover what the underlying reason is. So having that data at your fingertips before you go and talk to someone is going to help you sort of peel back the onion in different areas. So when you go have this discussion, Francis, what are some of the key things that should be covered in this sort of what we're calling an interview with the folks doing the work?
Well, I would ask these people, what type of eligibility verification process do you have in place and offered to you, whether it's electronic, how are you doing before the appointment verifying? What are you doing at the time of appointment to verify the coverage and benefits? What do you do with somebody who is uninsured? What's your collection process for that? Whether it be a self-pay discount that's offered because you're paying it at the time of the visit. The insurance benefits for out of network, is it legitimately a plan that is not accepted in the practice and the patient is fully aware? Do you have them sign the awareness policy so that the No Surprise Act doesn't come back to get you? I often see in the denial side, you have all these types of denials, all related to that one thing, right? The coverage. It's the patient the coverage was not effective yet, or it was terminated after, or the plan was already not in effect or already terminated, or the patient is not covered The denials are the patient is not effective yet, or the coverage has already lapsed. You just have variations of the denial for that specific thing. I'm losing my thought.
Why don't we start your part over? So just flow.
Okay. Okay. I would want to ask the front line, what is your process when you do not see that an insurance verification has taken place already through your electronic means? If you have the day before or 3 days before, what's your rolling cycle? Is somebody checking that every few days in advance? I have seen practices that are checking it the night before, which is not enough time to pick up the phone and call that patient and say, you know what, it doesn't look like your insurance is going to cover your visit tomorrow. Do you have other coverage we're not aware of? They may or may not. Do you cancel that appointment? So the timing of how do you handle manual verifications, or if that comes back as not covered from the electronic system, you have to have a system in place. You need to know what that is. When the patient signs in, what are the things that's asked of that patient? Please provide me with your insurance information. We know you're here today for such and such service. The deductible for that by my estimator is $112.18. Would that be cash, check, or credit card? Is that process in place, or do they simply check them in, look that, the insurance, it covered it last month, so I'm sure it's going to cover it this month, and then you get them on back? You really want to watch and observe. The authorization, you have a lot of things that affect whether, let's say you are doing prior authorizations on a particular service. You have patients that reschedule. It's like, oh my gosh, did somebody remember to catch the fact that that new date is when that service is going to be performed? We need a new prior authorization number. If the physician did a surgery procedure and deviated from the original, what he thought he was going to need to do, so now we need another prior authorization on the additional surgical procedure he did, or the insurance plan. This is what I really hear too, is the insurance plan, the struggles between them saying, you know what, for this you do not need a prior auth, and then you get claims denied, no prior auth provided. It's like, well, the protocol was no prior auth needed. Now you're saying I needed it. You want to hear from the referral department, the authorization clerk or person, what are you seeing? Which ones are you needing prior auths on the most? Which ones are you getting held on hold for 45 minutes only to be told it's not going to get processed by the time the appointment takes place? Those are the struggles you want to hear about.
Yeah, those are the great things to discuss and really understand the process and the challenges in a more nuanced way. I think we sort of have to emphasize how important it is to sort of see what people have to click on, who has to get called, what are the hold times, what are you able to do on that call. Maybe you could get some supplementary information, for example, if it's a plan you don't call very often and you need to double check codes that are required. Those are, one of the things that I think is a sort of very telling indicator is the patient responsibility estimation. So in order to do that, you're assuming that your fee schedules are more or less up to date in the EHR, which is often not the case. But this is sort of the positive benefit of doing that. Means you should know, assuming you know what services are going to be performed, what you're going to get reimbursed, what the contractual adjustment will be. And then, of course, based on looking at the benefits, you're going to understand what the current deductible is to be able to tell someone how much you think they're going to owe. Now, you may be wrong because maybe they had some other services. Their deductible goes down in between the time that they're in your office and the time that they ultimately get their bill. But being able to do an estimate is sort of, in my opinion, the sign of a very high functioning revenue cycle operation. And then building upon that, exactly to your point, Francis, will that be cash, check, or charge? I rather collect my patient money and owe a few dollars in a refund because I overestimated something than writing half of it off, which is what most folks do. So having that transparency at the front desk, I think also builds trust and loyalty with your patients now more than ever, because they won't be surprised. They actually understand what they're walking into. And if they decide that they want to turn down a specific service because they can't afford their responsibility, better not to render it than to get a write-off on the back end. So a lot of things that can be valuable here. Any additional thoughts, Francis?
No, you pretty much covered that. It's really about finding out what the people are telling you, because they see and hear it every day. And like for the authorization, is there a pattern to the requests? I had a situation where a physician was like, okay, Anthem is the one that every time I order this wants me to do a peer-to-peer. I am going to design a letter. I'm going to craft a letter, send it that already proves medical necessity. And she was able to eliminate that entire payer completely, requesting prior auths for that service going forward. So that, you just really have to hear it from the front line. It may be the physicians that you need to talk to as well as the staff.
Yeah, absolutely.